Kofi Mensah walked quickly through the streets of Accra as the rain began to fall. The 28-year-old teacher had just finished another long day at Kruma Primary School. His pocket held only 50 cedis, and he needed to pay his rent in 5 days. He passed the closed shops in his neighborhood, thinking about how to use his little money. Food would have to wait. His small room was hot because the fan was broken, but his landlord never fixed anything. Kofi had learned to manage with what he had. As he turned onto Liberation Road, he saw someone sitting against the wall of an old building. An elderly woman sat on torn cardboard boxes. Her thin body shook under a dirty cloth. Her gray hair hung around her tired face, and her lips looked dry and pale. Kofi had seen many homeless people in Accra, and he always felt sad when he couldn't help. Tonight, something about this woman made him stop. The rain was getting heavier, and the weather report said tonight would be very cold and wet. He looked at her and felt he couldn't just walk away. Kofi bent down beside the woman. Her eyes were closed. "Mama, are you okay?" he asked in Twi. Her eyes opened slowly. They were brown but looked cloudy and weak. "Cold," she whispered. "So cold." He noticed her hands were purple from the cold. She wore only a thin dress under her cloth, not enough for the cold rain. Her feet had plastic bags wrapped around them inside broken slippers. Kofi looked around, hoping to see a shelter or someone else who could help. The street was empty. Cars drove past, but no one stopped to help. He thought about his own problems. The 50 cedis was for his rent, and his landlord, Mr. Osei, had already warned him about being late. Kofi had been struggling to manage since losing his full-time teaching job 3 months ago. But looking at this woman, Kofi knew what he must do. Some things were more important than money. "What is your name?" he asked gently, taking off his jacket despite the rain. "Ama," she said, shaking. "Ama Boateng." Kofi put his jacket over Ama's shoulders. It wasn't much, but it was better than nothing. His thin shirt quickly got wet from the rain, and he felt very cold. "Ama, there is a chop bar 2 streets from here. Let me buy you some hot food." She looked at him with doubt. People on the streets learn not to trust easily. "Why?" she asked. "Because it is raining and cold, and nobody should be out here tonight," Kofi said simply. He put out his hand to help her stand. After thinking for a moment, she took it. Ama could barely stand. Her legs were stiff from sitting in the cold for many hours. Kofi held her arm, shocked at how light and weak she felt. They walked slowly to the chop bar. Inside Auntie Efua's chop bar, the warmth felt good. The woman at the counter, Auntie Efua herself, looked at them with unfriendly eyes but let them sit at a corner table anyway. Kofi looked at the menu board on the wall, counting his money in his head. A bowl of groundnut soup and banku for Ama would cost about 15 cedis. He could afford that, but just barely. "Order what you want," Kofi told Ama, hoping she would not order too much food. Ama's hands shook as she looked at the menu board. "I have not eaten in 2 days," she said quietly. "But I don't want to take advantage of your kindness." "You are not," Kofi said. "Please order what you need." She ordered groundnut soup with banku, fried plantain and hot tea. Kofi ordered only tea for himself, saying he had already eaten. His stomach made a noise because he was hungry. He had eaten only a banana for lunch, trying to save money. While they waited, Ama told him parts of her story. She had been a seamstress once, had a family, and a small shop. Then her husband died, she got sick and couldn't work, and slowly everything fell apart. Her daughter lived somewhere in Kumasi but hadn't spoken to her in many years. Kofi listened and understood. He had grown up poor himself. His mother had worked very hard at the market to keep them fed and housed. "How long have you been on the streets?" he asked. 3 years, Ama said, looking down at her hands. As Ama ate, Kofi noticed she was very sick. Her breathing made a wheezing sound, and she still shivered even in the warm chop bar. She coughed into a napkin, a deep, rattling cough that worried Kofi. "Ama, when did you last see a doctor?" She laughed without happiness. Doctors cost money, my son. I have a cough, yes, but I have survived worse things. But that cough sounded bad. Kofi's mother had been sick with pneumonia twice when he was young. He knew that sound. He excused himself to use his phone outside. He searched online and found information that scared him. Pneumonia could kill someone, especially an old person who was weak and hungry. Tonight would be very cold and wet. Kofi came back to the table knowing what he had to do. "Amma, I cannot let you go back outside tonight." "I will be fine," she said weakly. "I have my spot, and your jacket will help." "You will not survive tonight," Kofi said honestly. "You need a doctor, and you need shelter." He paused, knowing this was a big decision. "You can stay at my place tonight." Amma stared at him with tears in her eyes. "You don't know me. Could be dangerous. I could steal from you." "You are a sick, elderly woman," Kofi said gently. "I will take that chance." Auntie Efua brought the bill. 18 cedis. Kofi gave her a 20 cedi note and told her to keep the change, even though he needed every cedi. They walked slowly to Kofi's room, with Amma leaning on his arm. Her breathing was hard and noisy. His one-room apartment was small and simple, but it was warm and dry. Kofi gave Amma his only bed and said he would sleep on his mat on the floor. He found clean clothes for her to wear and made her more tea. "Tomorrow we are going to the clinic," he told her firmly. Amma said no, explaining she had no insurance and no money. But Kofi would not listen. "We will manage," he promised, though he didn't know how. That night, Kofi lay on his mat, listening to Amma's difficult breathing. He had spent almost 40 cedis on her, money he really needed for rent. His remaining money was only 10 cedis. Morning came with weak sunlight through the window. Kofi woke to find Amma looking a bit better but still very sick. He made porridge for breakfast, sharing his last portion between them. "I am taking you to the community clinic," he said. "They help people who cannot pay much." The clinic waiting room was full of people who looked as desperate as Amma. After waiting for 3 hours, a tired-looking doctor examined her. The doctor confirmed what Kofi had feared. Pneumonia, hunger, and her fingers and toes were damaged from the cold. "She needs antibiotics right away," the doctor said. "And she cannot go back to the streets. She needs at least 2 weeks of rest and good food to get better." The clinic could give antibiotics for less money, but the medicine still cost 45 cedis. Kofi used his mobile money account to pay, watching his balance drop to almost nothing. He now had only 5 cedis left. Rent was due in 4 days, and he needed 200 cedis. Outside the pharmacy, Amma cried. "You have done too much. I can never repay you." "I am not asking you to repay me," Kofi said, though he was very worried about his rent. Over the next 2 days, Kofi worked very hard to find help for Amma. He called every shelter in Accra, but all were full. The social services office said there were waiting lists that took months. Amma's daughter's phone number didn't work anymore. His landlord, Mr. Osei, kept calling him about the rent. Kofi had never been late before, and he knew Mr. Osei had many other people who wanted to rent the room. Kofi took extra teaching jobs, but the payment would come too late. He sold his old phone for 80 cedis, his radio for 30 cedis, and his good shoes for 25 cedis. Together with his 5 cedis, he now had 140 cedis. He was still 60 cedis short of the 200 cedis rent. He called Mr. Osei and asked if he could pay late, just 1 week late. The landlord said no. "I have bills too, Kofi. Pay by Friday or I will tell you to leave." Kofi felt scared. He had never been evicted before. But looking at Amma, who was slowly getting better in his bed, he couldn't regret helping her. He would find another way somehow. He always did. On Friday evening, when Kofi's rent was officially late, someone knocked on his door. He opened it to find a woman in an expensive suit. Her gray hair was neatly done, and her eyes looked sharp and intelligent. She wore gold jewelry and carried an expensive bag. Kofi Mensah? She asked in perfect English. Yes. My name is Akosua Boateng. May I come inside? The last name made Kofi think of Ama, but many people in Ghana had that surname. He hesitated, looking back at Ama, who was sleeping. I promise I am not here to cause trouble, Akosua said, her face becoming softer. Actually, I am here because of what you did for Ama. Kofi was confused. How do you know about that? Akosua smiled. Because Ama Boateng is my sister. And I have been looking for her for 3 years. She took out her phone and showed Kofi a photo of 2 younger women, clearly sisters, laughing together. One was definitely Ama, many years younger but with the same kind eyes. Please, may I come in? Akosua asked again. I have much to explain. Kofi stepped aside, his mind spinning with questions. Akosua sat in Kofi's only chair while he sat on the edge of the bed, being careful not to wake Ama. Now that he looked closely, Kofi could see that the sisters looked alike. The same face shape, the same small hands. Ama and I had a big fight 15 years ago, Akosua began, her voice sad. A foolish argument about our mother's property when she died. I said terrible things. She said terrible things too. We were both too proud to say sorry. Tears came to Akosua's eyes. 5 years ago, I finally tried to find her to apologize, but she was gone. Her husband had died, she had lost her shop and home, and I couldn't find her anywhere. I have had people searching for her ever since. Why didn't they find her? Kofi asked. She didn't want to be found. Ama kept moving around, avoided the shelters where people might recognize her. My investigator finally saw her 4 days ago on Liberation Road. Akosua looked at her sleeping sister. I wanted to run to her immediately, but my investigator said to wait and watch first. He had seen too many reunions go badly when people rushed. So I watched, and I saw you stop to help her. Akosua took out an iPad and showed Kofi video footage. He watched himself kneeling beside Ama, giving her his jacket, helping her to the chop bar. He saw himself leaving the chop bar without taking his change, supporting her as they walked to his room. I have been watching your situation too, Akosua admitted. I know you lost your full-time job. I know you can barely pay your rent. I know you sold your things to buy Ama's medicine. Kofi felt uncomfortable being watched like this, but he understood why she had to be careful. Why are you telling me all this? Because I needed to know what kind of person you were before I revealed myself, Akosua said. I needed to know if you were helping Ama because you truly cared or because you hoped to get something in return. She leaned forward looking serious. My full name is Akosua Boateng Mensah. I own AB Textiles and Manufacturing. We make cloth and clothing that we sell all over West Africa. Kofi had heard of AB Textiles. It was one of the biggest companies in Ghana. Akosua wasn't just rich. She was very, very wealthy. I have spent 3 years searching for my sister, Akosua continued. And a poor stranger gave her what I couldn't. Immediate help when she desperately needed it. Akosua reached into her bag and pulled out a checkbook. I want to repay you for what you have done. No, Kofi said immediately. I didn't help Ama for money. I know you didn't. That's exactly why I want to help you. Akosua looked earnest. Kofi, you are about to lose your room. You are very poor and struggling. Let me pay your rent at least. Think of it as gratitude, not payment. Kofi shook his head. I appreciate it, but I cannot accept that. I did what anyone should do. But most people don't do it, Akosua said. Most people walk past suffering every single day. You didn't. You gave up your own security for a stranger you didn't know. She wrote a check and held it out. Please. Let me help you the way you helped Ama. Kofi stared at the check. 5,000 cedis. That is too much, he protested. I cannot take this. It is nothing to me but everything to you, Akosua said. Take it. Pay your rent, buy food, stabilize your life. Use what is left to do something good. Kofi's hands shook as he looked at the check. It would solve all his problems and more. But something felt wrong about taking it. I cannot, Kofi said, giving the check back. It doesn't feel right. I didn't help Amma to get paid. If I take this, it makes what I did into a business deal. Akosua studied him for a long moment, then slowly smiled. You are quite special, Kofi Mensah. Do you know that? I am just a teacher who is bad with money, he said. You are a man of principle in a world that desperately needs more people like you. Akosua put the check away. All right, no direct payment. But would you accept a job? Kofi blinked. A job? AB Textiles has a community development program. We help poor communities, support schools, and help homeless people. We need people who actually understand these problems, people who have lived them, people who truly care. Akosua's eyes shone with excitement. I need someone to run our community programs in Accra. The number shocked Kofi. He currently made about 1,200 cedis per month from substitute teaching. I am not qualified for such a job, he said automatically. You are more qualified than you think, Akosua said. You are a teacher, you understand poverty because you have lived it, and most importantly, you have integrity and compassion. Kofi's mind was spinning. A stable job with that salary would completely change his life. He could afford a better place to live, save money, and maybe even help other people the way he'd helped Amma. Can I think about it? He asked. Of course. Take 1 week. Akosua stood up. But first let me help Amma. She will need proper housing, medical care, and counseling to help her adjust. I want to make things right with my sister, Kofi. Will you help me do that? Kofi nodded. But Amma should decide these things herself when she wakes up. Absolutely, Akosua agreed. She looked at her sleeping sister, love and regret on her face. Thank you, Kofi. Thank you for keeping her alive long enough for me to find her. After Akosua left, Kofi sat in the darkness of his room, thinking hard. His phone buzzed with a text from Mr. Osei. Last chance. Pay rent by midnight tonight or you must leave tomorrow. Kofi looked at his mobile money balance. 140 cedis. He looked at Amma, sleeping peacefully, breathing easier now that the medicine was working. He thought about Akosua's job offer and the check he had refused. He had made his choice days ago, he realized. Whatever happened next, he had done the right thing. Amma woke the next morning to find her sister sitting beside the bed, tears running down Akosua's face. Akosua! Amma's voice was confused, as if she thought she was dreaming. It's me, Amma. I'm here. I'm so sorry for everything. The sisters hugged each other, both crying. Years of hurt and pride melted away in that moment. Kofi quietly made tea in the corner, giving them privacy while staying close enough to help if needed. How did you find me? Amma asked. Akosua looked at Kofi. This young man saved your life. I had people looking for you and they saw you 4 days ago. I watched Kofi help you, care for you, and sacrifice for you when he had almost nothing himself. He is a very special person, Amma. Amma looked at Kofi with new understanding. You knew my sister was looking for me? No, Kofi said quickly. I only found out last night. I helped you because you needed help, not because of who you were or who your family was. Akosua explained everything. The watching, the investigation, the job offer Kofi had to think about. Amma listened, squeezing her sister's hand, still hardly believing this was real. I have so much to make up for, Akosua said. If you will forgive me and let me help you, I want you to come home, Amma. Please. Over the next few days, Kofi watched the sisters rebuild their relationship. Akosua arranged for Amma to stay in a nice hotel while they looked for a permanent home for her. She hired the best doctors to help Amma recover from her years on the streets. Kofi visited every day, bringing Amma books and spending hours talking with her. She told him more about her life before she became homeless. Her love of sewing and designing clothes, her late husband, the daughter she hoped to see again someday. Akosua, keeping her word, gave Kofi time to think about the job offer. Meanwhile, His landlord Mr. Osei had told him he had to leave his room in 30 days. "Take the job," Amma urged him during one visit. "Akojua's company needs someone like you. Accra needs someone like you." "I am not special," Kofi said. "You are though," Amma insisted. "You saw a person where others saw a problem. You gave when you had almost nothing. That is special, Kofi. That is rare and precious." Kofi thought about his mother, who had worked herself to exhaustion to raise him. She had taught him that true wealth wasn't money but how you treated people. She had died 5 years ago, but he still tried to live by what she had taught him. Kofi called Akojua and said yes to the job. "But I have some conditions," he told her. "Tell me. I want real power to make decisions. I don't want this to be just a title with no real work. If I'm going to do this, I want to actually help people and make real changes." "Agreed," Akojua said immediately. "What else?" "I want to work with people who have been homeless and poor themselves, not just study them from outside. I want to hire people like Amma to help develop these programs." "Also agreed. Anything else?" Kofi hesitated. "I want to make sure this isn't charity. I will work very hard. I will prove I deserve this position." Akojua's voice became gentle. "Kofi, you already have proven yourself. This isn't charity. It's recognition of your character and ability. I am investing in you because I believe you will do extraordinary things." 2 weeks later, Kofi started his new job. His first day at AB Textile's beautiful offices in Accra felt like a dream. He had an actual office, an assistant, and a budget to work with. It felt overwhelming and exciting at the same time. His first project was helping homeless people in Accra find shelter and get the help they needed. Kofi worked very hard on his new job with passion and dedication. He visited every shelter in Accra, spoke with social workers, and most importantly, talked with homeless people themselves. He learned about the problems that kept people trapped in poverty, the complicated systems that prevented people from getting help, and the lack of respect in most assistance programs. He created programs that helped with immediate needs, shelter, food, medical care, while also providing long-term solutions like job training, mental health help, and housing assistance. He insisted on treating people with respect and dignity. Amma became his most valuable advisor. She understood homelessness in ways no report could capture. Together, they designed programs that actually worked for the people they served. Akojua gave Kofi the resources and authority he needed, trusting his judgment even when his ideas were different from the usual way of doing things. Within 6 months, Kofi's programs were helping 500 people, and 127 people had moved off the streets into stable homes with jobs. The newspapers and TV news covered the programs, praising AB Textile's innovative approach. Kofi gave interviews, always crediting Amma and the team of formerly homeless people he had hired as advisors. His work was making a real difference in Accra. 1 year after that rainy night on Liberation Road, Kofi stood at a microphone in a newly opened community center. He was speaking to a crowd of donors, volunteers, and program participants. Amma sat in the front row beside Akojua, both sisters smiling with pride. "None of this would exist without one rainy night and one person who needed help," Kofi said. "But what I have learned this year is that we all need help sometimes. Kindness isn't about being a hero, it's about recognizing that we are all human beings who deserve dignity and care." The program had grown beyond anything he had imagined. AB Textiles had committed to spend 25 million cedis over 5 years to expand the programs to other cities in Ghana. Kofi had hired a team of talented, passionate people who shared his vision. In his personal life, Kofi had moved into a modest but comfortable apartment. He had reconnected with old friends, started a relationship with a kind teacher named Abina, and begun writing a book about his experiences. His mother would have been proud. Amma had reconciled with her daughter, who had traveled from Kumasi to reunite with her mother. Amma now lived in a small house that Akojua had helped her buy. She volunteered at a sewing cooperative twice a week and served on the advisory board for Kofi's programs. The sisters had completely rebuilt their relationship. 2 years after that rainy night, Kofi returned to Liberation Road. The old building where he had found Amma had been renovated and was now a new AB Textiles community center offering free services to anyone who needed them. He thought about how easily he could have walked past Amma that night. How close he had come to ignoring her suffering because of his own problems. How different his life and hers would be if he had made that choice. Akojua walked up beside him, a rare smile on her usually serious face. The government wants to copy your program for the whole city. They will provide full funding. Kofi nodded, still looking at the building. I never expected any of this. I did, Akojua said. From the moment I watched you give Amma your jacket when you could barely afford one yourself. Kindness like yours doesn't go unrewarded, Kofi. Not because of magic or luck, but because it inspires other people to be better too. Kofi finally turned to look at her. I was just helping someone who needed help. Exactly, Akojua said. That's what makes you extraordinary. You did what should be normal and ordinary, but somehow isn't anymore. That evening, Kofi walked past a young man sleeping in a doorway on his way home. He stopped, knelt down and offered help. Because some things he had learned were more valuable than money. Some things showed a person's true worth. And kindness, freely given, created ripples that spread farther than anyone could imagine.